Okay, we should be set.
Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee to order at 2:04 p.m. October 21st, 2020. First, I'll have to read the written determination. Written determination of the chair of the public body pursuant to House Bill 5002 and Utah Code 52-4-207 4A and B, whereas pursuant to Moab Municipal Code 2815A, I am the presiding officer, chair at all meetings of the Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee, whereas Utah Code 52-4101, the Open and Public Meetings Act, governs the conduct of meetings of the Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee, whereas the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act amendments provide that a public body may convene and conduct an electronic meeting without an anchor location if the chair of the public body makes a written determination that conducting the meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. B, states in the written determination subscribed in subsection 4A the facts upon which the determination is based. Whereas in the previous written determination I made on September 3rd, 2020, I stated the facts regarding COVID-19 and transmission, as well as Governor Herbert's statement regarding a continuing need for heightened caution. And I incorporate that prior written determination here. Whereas the facts contained in the prior written determination remain true, including the facts that the state of Utah remains under a state of public health emergency. City of Moab committee meetings do require attendance by individuals at higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19. And the CDC indicates that the lowest risk for events and gatherings is virtual only, whereas the health and safety of committee members, city officials, and employees, staff, and members of the public is best served by holding electronic meetings of the committee, whereas the committee has prepared for and demonstrated the ability to effectively conduct its public meetings electronically, including providing members of the public means to observe the committee's meetings and provide comments electronically. Now, therefore, I conclude that conducting Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee meetings with an anchor location that is physically accessible for members of the public to attend in person presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination will expire 30 days after the day upon which I made the determination. It is possible that circumstances could warrant future determinations, and so I may reissue future written determinations at this time. Okay. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from our September 30th regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move to approve the minutes from September 30th and October 7th.
Motion by Councilmember Guzman-Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jones. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You know what, that was just for September 30th. I guess we could take my mistake. Next, I can probably just take a motion to approve October 7th regular meetings and the public engagement minutes, if that works for staff. Just do it at the same time. So entertain a motion to approve the item 3.2 and 3.3.
I did do that, Curtis.
Oh, okay. I thought that was just for the September 30th regular meeting minutes, 3.1. If we're good there, are we good there?
We'll have the minutes reflect that it was for all three.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. Next item on the agenda is number 4, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens?
We don't, and I did pass along some comments that we've gotten in the past week. I included that in attachments, as well as comments that we got, written comments from the open house last week. So that was in an email that contained the agenda.
Okay. We'll move on to item 5, report and discussion of public engagement efforts and survey results. Is that Lisa or Carly?
It's me.
Lisa?
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
So how are you? I'm going to give you an update on towards the end of this on where we have been so far as engagement. But first, I'm going to share my screen and we'll talk about the survey and what we found from those comments. So hang on. Okay, can you all see that? Hello?
Not yet.
Oh,
No. Okay.
Not yet.
All right, well, let me try again.
There it goes.
All right. Now, can you see it?
yes.
Awesome. Okay, so in the second survey that we did, which was for all 3 of the projects that are being considered, the dispersed parking, the shuttle transit system, and the shared use pass in Spanish Valley, we received 182 total responses, and 168 of those responders were from Moab or Grand County. And the purpose of this survey was to seek community input and preferences regarding the 3 projects that are being considered at this point. We asked questions about downtown core median parking, and particularly about the proposal for median parking on side streets through Moab's downtown core, and also the Emma Boulevard parking area that is being considered as part of the dispersed parking. Most people indicated that they would use median parking on downtown side streets. And we also asked them to identify where they would use that parking most likely, and East Center Street, East 100 North, and all of the various streets under consideration were ranked the highest in that. West 200 North ranked significantly lower than other identified streets, as did East 100 South. And you can see, the various answers that we had here. In terms of the dispersed parking areas they would be most likely to use, you can see the rankings. And you guys have the full survey results, so you have all of the various numbers that go along with that, including the base results, but also the number of people who actually voted, ordered for these things.
So Lisa, I don't know, we have that. The screen is showing the main slide and then your next slide. And because of that, it's pretty small.
That's okay, hang on. Let me
Okay.
see. So did that solve your problem?
Much better,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. My 2 screens are apparently reversed, so we're good. So of the median parking on side streets in the downtown core, yes, 62.8% of people said that they would use those. And 59.1% basically said that it was not applicable as far as where they would not want to have median parking. While, as I said, East 100 North ranked highest for places people did not want that. So that's the area in front of Moonflower. And then the images that we provided them also included that second block there that had been requested at one point. 14.2% of the people there said they did not want median parking at all. And you can see the progression on down. West 200 South is sort of at the bottom here, but it also ranked at the bottom of places that people would most likely use median parking. Here we asked about design aesthetics, and this was, a big point before in the previous parking survey that we did. 72.9% of the survey respondents ranked the inclusion of trees as their #1 priority. And that probably comes as very little surprise because that was a high priority last time as well. And you can see here the distribution because they were asked to rank these between 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. So you can see the actual distribution of how these were ranked primarily. Let me go back to that for just a second. Bicycle parking areas came out as #2 here in terms of priorities. Benches and seating areas came as #3, and stamp colored concrete or for the medians instead of plain concrete was #4. And then finally, in 5th place was no amenities needed, plain concrete or asphalt stripe for parking is fine. Also, the majority of survey respondents indicated that they believe median parking on side streets will improve the look and feel of the downtown core. 55.6% of people said that. Be safer for drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians. That was ranked by 41% of the people. And reduce congestion in downtown. 38.8% of our respondents said that. A smaller number indicated concerns that median parking on downtown side streets would make the downtown core more dangerous. 30.9% of people said that. Create more congestion, 25.8%, and impede traffic flow, 21.9%. So there's, while by and large respondents seem to approve of median parking, there are some concerns still out there. And I know some of those concerns have been brought up at some of the meetings as well that you guys have had. The Emma Boulevard area that we discussed, we asked people if they would like to see additional parking lots or parking areas created on the north end of Moab near and along Emma Boulevard. 41.1% of the respondents said yes. 30.6% said they didn't know, and 28.3% said no. What was interesting about this was when we asked if people would use that parking, 59.2% of the respondents, 106 people, said no. 15.1% said yes, and 25.7% said they didn't know. And when we asked how often they would use that parking, 43% said never, 36% said rarely, 11.2% said occasionally, and 9.6% said they would use it weekly, daily, or monthly. Any questions about that? Moving on to the Spanish Valley multi-use path, we asked for people's views on this proposed project, and specifically if they would like to see a paved path along Spanish Valley Drive, whether they believed it would help relieve congestion on US 191 and Main Street, whether they would use the path, 71.3% said yes, and how often, and whether they thought it would provide significant benefits to the community. 75.6% of the respondents said yes, they believed it would provide significant benefits. And so you can see from the responses that 85% of the people who responded said that they would like to see the path. 48.1% said they believed it would help reduce traffic congestion. And when we asked how often people would use it, 25.6% of those responding said weekly, 21.7% said occasionally, 17.2% said daily, 16.7% said never, 10% said rarely, and 8.9% said monthly. Moving on to the shuttle transit pilot program, people were asked for a variety of questions about possible shuttle transit options, including whether they believe it will relieve traffic congestion and help parking availability in the downtown core, if they would like visitors to leave vehicles parked at their hotels, whether those who are residents would use public transit, the times of day that they believe transit or shuttles would be used most frequently, and where the respondents live and work. And I didn't include the live and work part in this slideshow presentation, but you guys do have that information. In terms of believing that it would alleviate congestion, 68.5% of the people who responded said yes. 18.2% said no, and another 13.3% said they did not know. A whopping 89% of respondents said they would like to see visitors leave their vehicles parked at their overnight accommodations and use local transit to get around town. And most respondents also said they believe, 68.5% to be specific, that a transit shuttle system would alleviate congestion. 89% said they'd like to see visitors leave their vehicles at lodging, and 73.6% said they feel transit would help improve parking availability in the downtown area. The majority of residents who do work in the tourism industry, because that was a question that was asked, and 35% of the people who responded said they do, indicated that they believe visitors would use public transit. A total of 15% said no, and 50% of the respondents said they do not work in the tourism industry. Of the places where people might use transit if they were visitors here, downtown definitely ranked the highest. That came in at 91.3%. The North Corridor was ranked at 75.7%. They were asked to choose, to rate these, choose no more than 3 options. And the South Corridor ranked at 53.2%. The times that they believe visitors might use the shuttle service were 85.1% chose 6 to 9 p.m., 57.7% said 9 a.m. to noon, and 46.4% said 3 to 6 p.m. And by the way, Karen, I'd like to thank you for all the work you did on putting these shuttle questions together. It was incredibly helpful.
Right.
We asked people if they, as residents here, would use public transit, and in all, 49.4%, 89 people said yes, 32.2%, 58 people said no, and the rest indicated that they were unsure. And then when they were asked why they would use public transit, 28% said they wouldn't, 23.8% said for shopping, appointments, errands, etc., and 17.9% said for dining out. And then there were other answers, including commuting to work, 15.5%, to get out to nightlife, and then for other purposes. So the 6 to 9 p.m. times here actually track with the times that people felt like visitors would also use a public transit system, largely 6 to 9 p.m. And finally, the overall rankings for all 3 projects under consideration by the Hotspot committee was what the final question we asked. And people were asked to rank the projects with 1 being highest priority and 3 being lowest priority. And you'll see here that the shared use path came in at the highest priority, while dispersed parking came in 2nd place, and the shuttle and pilot program the transit shuttle program came in 3rd place. But all 3 of these rankings are very close to one another. And the way this program works, with SurveyMonkey, when they combine all of this, they combine sort of the numbers of people who rank it 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and then do an aggregate for that. So it seems from looking at this that most of the people who responded really see all 3 of these projects as good projects. And in fact, some of the people in some of their general comments indicated that they really would like to see all 3 of them, or parts of all 3 of them, presented to UDOT for potential funding. And here we have some general comments by survey participants. And I will say that, and these come from the open-ended comments that people could make at the end. We did have 95 people actually submitted comments out of the 182, and the rest chose not to. So I will say that while trees rank the highest in terms of amenities, several people mentioned that shade structures or shaded parking would achieve the same results. And they talked about, you know, seeing visitors like huddled under trees on Main Street when it's really hot out, you know, looking for a little bit of shade. So I can't really extrapolate whether for most of the people who said trees were so important, you know, I can't, you know, read their minds and know whether shade would solve the problem if it wasn't trees, but clearly some kind of shade available for the public is important to people. Several people focused on the need to create parking for oversized vehicles, and that has come up. It also came up at the October 14th open house that we did outside, but it's come up, I know, in the past in other comments. Many people emphasized the value of the shuttle and transit system and the Spanish Valley bike path in their written comments. Several people expressed concerns about whether the shuttle system and or the bike path would actually be used if they were funded. And then there were some people who basically said that they feel Moab is already broken or ruined and there's too much noise and too many people coming here, and they didn't really think any of these projects would solve any of these problems. And finally, just a quick update on where we are. So the committee, as you know, recently conducted 2 meetings to receive public comment. There was an electronic meeting on October 2nd, which drew very low participation. There were 4 people who called in, and I believe only 2 actually made any statements during that meeting. The October 14th open house, on the other hand, was very successful, especially given COVID. We had, by my count, somewhere between 20 and 30 community members. It may have been slightly higher than that. And this doesn't include the committee members who were there and the staff and everybody else. And it seemed to be fairly productive. I mean, you all would know more about that because you were really talking to those folks about their interest and concerns about the projects. Both of these meetings were advertised, announced in a news release, posted on the website and on social media in the same way. So I don't have an explanation for why the electronic meeting was so poorly attended. Some people have suggested maybe it was because the vice presidential debate was that night, but I don't know. And maybe people just were like in a mood to like get out and, you know, be out in the fresh air. So anyway, it was, I did feel that the open house was, it seemed to go over quite well. And I've heard just in the community some comments from people who were there who were pleased that we did it. Number 2, we are creating a public engagement timeline that dates back to the time the committee was formed to the present, and this will be included in the final project document submitted to UDOT on November 1st. And 3, we will continue to gather any new comments or suggestions that are submitted and provide them to you as the committee. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Lisa? Go ahead and just speak up if you do, because my camera is lagging, so I can't see you.
I'd like to just say thank you very much, Lisa, and city staff for putting that open house together. I think that was a very nice evening, and it seemed like what people were really receptive. So appreciate the work that went into that.
Yeah, and I'll echo that in the follow-up work as well, putting the results of all the engagement together in such a clear format. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that, Lisa. That's really helpful and interesting to see, and it's nice to have that data to work with and to consider. as we balance all these things. And I would just also echo, I thought the town hall was really great, and there was a lot of really good discussion about the projects and the process happening with members of the community. So very well done. If we don't have any other additional comments or questions, we'll move on. Okay, thank you, Lisa, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to item 6, which is discussion and approval of draft concept package, including dispersed parking project, Spanish Valley multi-use path, and transit shuttle pilot project. There are links on the agenda with all the attachments for the individual projects. And so what we're looking for here is the approval of the draft concept package. It's not final in terms of content, but so we're looking for the approval of the package itself with this agenda item. And then this next agenda item, we're going to have a review by Carly of the spreadsheet that she had sent out that allows us to go in and rank each project according to the 3 primary criteria that were in the legislative intent of the monies. And so with this item, again, 6, we're not looking to prioritize, but just to approve the projects today and for eventual final approval at the joint meeting on the 30th. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion or questions.
I'll make a comment on the draft concept package, the first PDF. I just, of course, was reading through it before the meeting, and I would like a chance to go through it a little more carefully. I thought it was extremely well written. I liked it a lot. I appreciate whoever wrote that. I would like to, as I said, go through it more closely and make a few edits. One part that stood out to me is in the Spanish Valley pathway. I think that something we may be overlooking, because I read part of it, I should pull it up on the screen, but it mentioned reducing congestion and whatever in the 199 corridor. Like it or not, we've actually got 2 corridors that we have to deal with in the Moab Valley. Spanish Valley Drive, Mill Creek Way used to be my go-to place to, either ride my bike home or drive my car home, because it was a quiet back road with very little traffic, and it helped me to chill as I was driving home from work. It's no longer like that. It's become a major thoroughfare, and so I think it's something we have to deal with. And so to couch these projects in terms of the 191 corridor only, I do think is a mistake. So I would like to sort of adjust for that a little bit.
Okay, thank you for that. Question for Carly, just really quick. How generally would you like to handle suggested edits by the committee between now and the joint meeting on the 30th? Do we want to just take notes if the suggested edits aren't disputed by any of the committee members, and then just have a revised version sent out to the committee members prior to the 30th, or what's the process there?
A really good question. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to address it. I think that, so I know Kaylin sent some notes that he had, and Jalen, I heard the comment that you had about the Spanish Valley Trail. Since we're meeting on the 30th, I would probably want this finalized by no later than Tuesday to post it, so everyone and the other bodies have an opportunity to review it. If you could give me comments by Monday, if you have some, that would be very helpful. And it will be, I would say, it would be a final draft for that joint meeting. And it may be that we revise it even more to submit to UDOT based on what UDOT wants to see, or even to present to the Transportation Commission. So I want to get as final a draft as possible for the 30th, so everyone knows what we're signing off on, and recognizing that this version or this concept package might be refined for submission to the Transportation Commission as well. So it might have some evolution to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Any other suggested edits or comments on the draft concept package or the individual attachments?
As Carly mentioned, I submitted a PDF with a variety of comments and tweaks, none of which I think are super substantial, but just trying to hone in on what I'm hoping is our, what I understand to be our message. One thing that I do wonder in terms of how we frame it is to point out that, and this would be an addition, that there is no silver bullet for congestion, as I'm sure UDOT well understands after billions of investment and still having lots of congestion. And that this package actually functions best as a package in that it addresses congestion across multiple modes of transportation and in multiple areas. So I don't know if that's a good message for them or not, but it's one way we might frame it.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions for the package or the individual attachments pertaining to the projects? And if you want to use the raise your hand button, I can probably see that better than I can see video for any comments coming in. Look.
Curtis, it looks like Monty wants to speak.
Okay, Monty, go ahead.
But he's muted.
Okay, they changed. It used to be you could unmute on the computer and it would unmute on the phone. But anyway, I just wanted to second Kaylin's comments. I appreciated those comments, Kaylin, because I think it is a relevant message and an important message that the proposed projects do address multiple modes of transportation and in multiple locations throughout the area. So I think that is good messaging, and I think it does carry some weight with UDOT's goals and objectives.
Thanks, Monty. You know, there's a couple of the items that, or components of this that we've been discussing is related to the downtown parking projects and the aesthetics and the landscaping aspects of that. And Monty and UDOT have, you know, they've been, I think, very clear that they don't see the aesthetics and the landscaping aspect of our parking project as, you know, as being within I guess the program criteria or what UDOT feels is appropriate for this money. And I wanted just to discuss that a little bit because I know we've discussed this as a committee, and we've gotten, you know, some of the great feedback we've gotten from the community with our public outreach is all very much in favor of landscaping and, you know, the aesthetics of the downtown parking. And I think that the rationale and the general sentiment is not just because it looks good and it's nice, but it, you know, I think we feel on the local level that it very much ties into the economic development program criteria, and also the health and safety aspects of that, and how that ties into those things. And so, you know, I think just as a heads up, Monty, I know that there's a lot to be worked out you know, further down the line, both prior to presenting to the Transportation Commission and in the actual design phase after the funding has been awarded. But we're just, you know, I think on the local level, you know, we're keeping those in there as a priority, and they're important to us. And you know, we look forward to just working with you all to sort that out and find some, you know, some balance in there somewhere. So I wanted to just touch on that. We're not choosing to not acknowledge or listen to you and Rick, but, you know, just respectfully, we're feel like they're important parts of that project and how they tie into some of the other criteria. So we intend to present in that order, and we'll just let the chips fall where they do.
Understood. And I think, you know, as we talk about the aesthetics and the betterments associated with the parking, you know, I just want to make it clear that, you know, we do recognize the importance to the community, and that's one of the reasons why the threshold that we've established for that is 8 times larger than what we would normally do under normal projects. And so, you know, that certainly move forward in the manner that you're discussing, and how to stress the importance to the community, and we'll work through the issues and see where we come down. The aesthetics aren't something that have to be built on day one. Certainly there's some things that the community can, and whatever group that's in charge of the design, from the community's perspective, can focus on the elements that they believe are most important, and additional betterments and aesthetics can be added over time via other funding sources. And so, point well taken and understood.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Monty. And so do we have any other, you know, comments or suggested edits, questions regarding the package before I entertain a motion to approve it?
Oh, Curtis, it's Carly. I forgot that you can't see me. Sorry. Can I just have one clarification? In the concept package, the way that Mila and I drafted, or the shared use path, I guess, proposal and description, we talked about, we proposed the entire pathway. Mila is available, and she also has an engineer on, and I just want to make sure that is what the committee is interested in suggesting. So just to let you know that is what is in the concept package. I know that you've spoken before about splitting it up and sort of taking a look at the different segments. So Mila's here to do that conversation if you're interested, but if not, I just wanted to clarify that we're at, I believe it was $4 million project is what's in the concept package.
And Carly, did we also get in the segment, the northern segment? Because we do have that as well. That should be one of the spreadsheets, and that's, I think it was 1.8 million.
That's true. So we have 2. Thank you so much, Mila. We have like the full package, and then the other option is the north segment, which we can submit both of those, and it can be UDOT that makes the decision, of course. I think that's sort of what I had in mind, but I hadn't explained that to the committee yet, so I wanted to make you aware of that.
Well, I know we discussed that at the last meeting. You know, I think we wanted to try to move together as a group on that, and there's some strong advocates for that project on the committee, certainly. And I do remember Council Member Jones just stating that he would like to see us present that project in its entirety, you know, not just a certain portion of it. So that's been my understanding and the way I've been thinking about it, and understanding how we're presenting that, proposing it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Curtis, I agree with that. I would like to see the whole thing presented. But if we're going to present a separate segment, I'm wondering if, I don't know how hard it would be to come up with the numbers, but it seems like a more natural place to maybe stop the segment would be where it would connect to Spanish Trail Arena. Maybe go that far because that is a priority in the future.
So
And
we
then
actually
get it out to
also,
191 too.
we also have that as a segment in the package as
Okay,
well.
great.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't get a
there's
chance.
actually 3. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
one that's just 1.25 miles, and that basically goes to Arroyo Crossing, where it
Mhm.
ties into the pathway that they're being required to construct already.
Mhm.
And that is a development of 300 new units. So that would be a pretty big benefit to be able to connect actually up to there. And then the next segment we have in there goes down to Spanish Trail Arena. And then after that, we just have the whole pathway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that I found it slightly confusing in the narrative because towards the end, he talks about a second proposed segment would extend the pathway to Osta, and it's just unclear to me if that was going from just a short section hopping into Osta, or if it's, and then in the project budget, it then brings in a partial pathway proposal. And so I just felt like it could have, maybe the project description could have been a little clearer about what the different segments are and identifying them, say by number, and then making that clear in the budget.
We do, just one more comment is that we do have the whole pathway done according to UDOT's project proposal spreadsheet. And the other 2 segments are just sort of summary costs done by our engineer. So if we needed to, if we really wanted to, detail out one of those other 2 segments, we should probably use that UDOT spreadsheet. And you can just let me know and I can have our engineer do that. But we just have that for the whole pathway right now.
Monty,
Yeah.
is something you would want if we were to submit it, or is the level of detail provided by the engineer sufficient for submission?
Would you repeat that, please? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
No, that's okay. When it comes to the Spanish Valley Trail, we have, it sounds like a project spreadsheet that UDOT provided that outlines the cost for the full trail. But we also have estimates done by the engineer that are probably a little less detailed or aren't according to the project spreadsheet for different length segments. And the question is whether you want us to use the project spreadsheet for those other 2, or if the engineer estimates and is sufficient for submission in the concept package.
The engineer's estimates would be fine as long as they're summarized and easy to understand. That would be fine.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other comments? Any discussion? Well, at some point, we need to have a motion to approve the draft concept package as proposed, with also acknowledging any suggestions or edits that are coming that have been discussed. I think what we're looking for, as long as nothing changes anything, major about any project, but I think we're all on the same page as a committee here.
If I may, I move to approve the draft concept package, including dispersed parking project, Spanish Valley multi-use path and transit shuttle pilot project, in substantially the form presented, but with possible minor edits and word changes.
Motion made.
Prior to presentation to councils and commission.
Thank you. Okay, motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Commissioner Hawks. Any more discussion, further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously 6-0. And we're on to item 7, which is the prioritization of approved final transportation projects. And I'll turn it over to Carly.
All right, hello all. So this afternoon I sent out a spreadsheet for all of you to consider to help us quantify the prioritization of these 3 projects. I think it was pretty self-explanatory. I'm happy to share my screen just so we can look it over. But let me know if you can't see that. But what Curtis and I had in mind today is just to review this with you and then to allow you some time to consider what you think these numbers should be, and then just send it back to me in the next couple days. And then we can crunch the numbers and present the prioritization to the council and commission on next Friday, a week from Friday. And this is just bringing it back to making sure the decisions that are made are rooted in the statutory criteria that are required for the hotspot funding. And is able to present to the Transportation Commission, just like the projects the first go around. And you're welcome to discuss these now. You can give it a couple days. I think that's mine and the chair's recommendation. And then we can produce that as part of the concept package to UDOT.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about this is, you know, we're using a more comprehensive format to deliver our recommendations to the city council and the county commission. There's context there, as opposed to just a vote by the committee. And so, and I think this is helpful for us all too, to just kind of revisit the program criteria and really the lens that, you know, to be evaluating. And we understand that there is an emphasis on congestion, but I think this is well done. And, you know, we don't have to put anyone on the spot and force them to kind of go through this in a public meeting. But I think delivering, you know, if everyone can just take the time over the next few days to input your rankings into the spreadsheet and then email them to Carly, and you're welcome to copy me or not. It's fine. And then this will be the results of this process and exercise will be discussed and presented at the joint meeting where we seek final approval by the city council and the county commission. So we're looking forward to, there's no action item here. This is just a kind of a presentation and looking for a thumbs up from everyone if they're comfortable with that. If not, let us know. Would like to see some changes, let us know. That's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, and just, sorry, I realized I didn't really explain the sheet either. So what I was looking for is a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being it doesn't fulfill the criteria and 5 means it definitely does. And then you can put your rating here, and then this will, so say this one is all 5s, it'll, you know, populate this formula to help us get those numbers. Yeah.
So Carly, I realized I filled mine out incorrectly.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So I will have you, yeah, you're welcome to send again.
Okay.
I'll wait for that one, no problem.
I'll send you a revised one.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or comments on this? Does this work for everyone if we proceed this way?
Yeah, Curtis, just another, just another caution, or not a caution, but hopefully as everybody works through this, fills it out, that they will look at all 3 projects and consider that we actually do have 2 major corridors that are used both by tourists in terms of, side-by-sides, motorcycles, trucks. I even see diesel trucks on Spanish Valley, which isn't a good thing. But yeah, we have 2 corridors. So as we evaluate these projects, I would hope that that will be taken into account. I know that I will be evaluating them that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaylyn. Any other thoughts, comments? Look good. Okay. I like it. I think, I had just envisioned, us coming to a vote. I think this is a much more, straightforward and calculated way for us to, reach a conclusion as a committee on how we rank these projects. So thank you, Carly, for putting this together. And I think this will, in addition to the package, gets us what we need for our job. And we'll just look forward to seeing everyone at the joint meeting on the 30th when we finalize this with both bodies, and it'll be great. Okay, any other comments? If not, we're going to adjourn.
One question did occur to me.
You bet.
And that is, I have the impression that congestion reduction is weighted higher for UDOT, but that's not reflected in how this rating system is constructed. And I'm wondering if my perception is accurate, would it be appropriate to weight the congestion reduction higher? Would that be helpful?
That's a good question and comment. I mean, I think that's something certainly, we've acknowledged. And I don't know, Monty, if you want to comment on that, or Carly, what everyone's thoughts are.
Yes, Kaylin's right that is the intent of the funding is primarily came about to help with the relief of congestion. Some of those items, for instance, on the Spanish Valley Trail, that quantifying the congestion relief is very difficult because there's not data available to actually put that into quantification. I did appreciate the presentation on the survey that was completed as far as the public input, and that even though it's anecdotal and not hard data, that gives representation of how members of the community, based on that survey, would utilize the trail, and also can show the potential for reducing congestion. And so any of that, and also the survey relative to the dispersed parking, any of that, the ability to demonstrate the expected reduction in congestion would certainly help. And so if there was a way that you could come up with to do that in your ranking, then I certainly think that would be beneficial.
Carly, do you have some ideas, or Kaylin, about how we can add some weight to that congestion column, assuming that's okay with everyone?
I think, so I would ask Monty or someone on his team, when you use decision lens the first time around, this is my very poor man's decision lens attempt. By what factor was the congestion weighted? And I think we can add that, if it's like 20%, or I don't know if there was,
I don't know that off the top of my head. We'd have to do some research to find that out.
Okay.
Let me, I can dig that out and see, but it'll take me a little bit.
Monty, this is Jared. It was weighted quite high on that original. It was like 56% of the value was given to congestion out of the different 3 weighting criteria. So it was weighted quite high compared to the others.
Yeah, we can incorporate that into it. Sorry, Karen, did I see some? I didn't mean to interrupt you. So what we should do is fill out your sheets as you would, the ones that I sent out, and then we can adjust when I put it into the master spreadsheet. those kinds of, that percentage, and one will just be weighted more.
Right. So just a commentary on that, since the parking structure ended up coming out as a clear choice on that previous effort, I do believe that the dispersed parking would also benefit from that same criteria, and actually even more so. And the reason I say more so is that one of the challenges associated with a centralized parking structure would be that it congregates or it aggregates congestion to that specific location. I do believe it's clear that a dispersed parking approach would disperse that congestion throughout the community. And I shouldn't say disperse the congestion. It would disperse the folks achieving parking throughout the community, therefore not be in a focal point for congestion. So I certainly think that dispersed parking would get very high relative to the other choices based on that.
Okay, so are we going to have sorry, go ahead.
And I will get that number for the decision lens and send it over to you, Carly.
Thank you so much.
So Carly, are we going to expect a fresh round of spreadsheets then?
No, you can fill out the spreadsheets, still use the same number. We'll just weight, in my formula, I'll weight them differently.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other comments, discussion items?
Just real quick, Curtis, like looking through the survey results, some concerns that I see that is that the community and UDOT and our particular job happen to be different. And a lot of the comments that I don't know if everybody had a chance to read through the extra comments, but it was, we already have enough congestion. You're not doing anything for the community. And so it's sort of, we're in a particular, like in an odd place to try to, and I don't know that we've done it very well in explaining that this is public money trying to alleviate an issue that the state has and that we have as a community, which is congestion. I mean, that really is why we're here. And so there's a disconnect between, like, the community feels like we should be using this money to do something for our community, period. I mean, and I think we're at a place where folks are pretty frustrated, right? And I mean, Monty would know better, but I mean, our numbers for traffic are through the roof this year. And so I don't know if we, looking at the survey results, I mean, it was, there's some really great information, but again, there's just this disconnect of what the community thinks what we should be doing and what UDOT and like kind of what we're charged with trying to accomplish. So does that make any sense? I mean,
yeah.
So, I mean, like the multimodal pathway, like that, it would be awesome. And everybody was like, yep, we want this. It's a community benefit. And so again, it's, how much is that a benefit for UDOT?
I think those are really good comments. And I've certainly been aware of that dynamic, and that this is, we're aware because we've been all personally involved in this process and the legislation, aware of the legislation that appropriated these funds, and then our dialogue and work with UDOT, and then also on the other side, the communications that we're, having with constituents and the feedback we're getting. And it doesn't all line up perfectly by any means. I think that's kind of the challenge that we have is we have to move forward in a way where, we can find some balance there. That's the way I've been approaching it. Because we certainly can't walk all the citizens through the insider baseball of the legislation and, you know, the program criteria. Even us as a committee, sometimes we head off in a direction in discussion, and it's really that program criteria, but it's not only the program criteria. As we know, some of it is certainly weighted, and so it is very complex. And you know, we're wanting to work with UDOT in a way where we can be an effective partner and accomplish mutual goals, but we also have that a very diverse community, you know, that is passionate about issues, and we just have to make things fit as best we can, is the way I would respond to that, Karen.
Yeah, I just, no, I appreciate that. It's just, you know, in discussing transit or the pathway or the dispersed parking, you know, I mean, folks are like, oh, I'll never use transit. So it doesn't, I don't want the money to be spent towards that. Well, you know, we have other objectives that we're trying to accomplish, and I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to really explain the job that we are set out to do and to accomplish. And like you said, be good partners with UDOT. So I hope we can figure this out in the next 8 days.
Yeah, I think, you know, I encourage everyone on the committee, you know, to speak up at the joint meeting, you know, and let the other members of the city council and county commission that haven't been involved in this, you know, help educate them and understand, you know, the challenges here and the goals and how we've navigated this, so that, you know, we can all move forward in lockstep. I think that's important too, you know, considering the parking structure, to really have true consensus and you know, healthy acknowledgement of why we've arrived at the place that we have. And so, yeah, you know, you're describing, you know, survey results where they're saying, well, me as a citizen, I won't use transit, but in, you know, in our mind, we're thinking that's a significant portion of congestion, which is also not a, you know, it's a issue for locals to keep tourists in hotel parking lots. And, you know, it's a tool to address one of those issues. And so each project is going to appeal to locals differently and going to have an effectiveness, you know, towards the congestion issue differently. So it, like, you know, Kaylin said, it truly is a package of tools that, you know, that are different in nature and are, you know, are going to appeal to different groups and demographics differently.
And I'll just say that I share the concern. I'm noticing this. I noticed that in our meeting yesterday. I noticed it on a district board that I'm on. Just struggling to communicate to constituents and citizens the limitations that we have, the complexities of funding, and the fact that, and I feel like we just have to do our best, continue improving at it, and know that, like, it takes us as folks that are like very much involved in it a while to get up to speed, and some people are not going to track and they're going to be upset with us, but hopefully we can bring more along as time goes on.
You know, Chairman, if I could make a comment, I appreciate the committee's understanding of the challenges. You know, we do have specific criteria, legislative criteria for this funding. And I just want to say I appreciate the fact that it's difficult maybe for all members of the community to understand those criteria and how that whatever projects we put forth must meet those criteria. And it's not just a, you know, I don't want to sound flippant, but it's not a $10 million gift card to do whatever wants to be done for the community. They have very specific requirements, and you all have done a great job of working through the challenges to address those requirements. So I, for one, feel very good about the process that we've gone through. I think we're in a good place and look forward to moving on towards the Transportation Commission.
Hey, Curtis, one thing just occurred to me that I had told someone else I would get feedback on. Of course, Graham County is doing budgeting right now, and any money that is allocated for the Spanish Valley pathway, because most of it, well, part of it is all the money. I guess my question is any money received going to go through the city and then to the county, or will the city take care of all that? In other words, we need to know if we need to budget for that money to come in as revenue and then go out as an expense.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, if Monty or Carly want to comment on that. I would probably want to link Chris and Joel together also on that. I don't have the answer.
Oh, that's an excellent idea, because Chris is the one I'm working with. So if we could get him and Joel together, that'd be great.
And Carly,
Carly.
you may want to initiate that conversation and be involved, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
I believe, I guess my initial recommendation
Carly, I'm sorry, I can't hear a word you're saying.
Is that any better?
me neither.
You can't hear me. Hello?
Yes?
Can you hear me now? That was so weird. There's just like clicking going on my side. It was briefly possessed. Sorry. So Joel and I, Chris, probably should talk about it. What's difficult is we won't know until even like December, maybe at the earliest, whether we're getting funding and how much. My initial recommendation would be to budget as if you would for a grant that you didn't know you're going to get. Do it that same way, and we'll probably have to do some fancy footwork with budget openings. But it's a great question.
Well, that's probably something that we can work to resolve post council commission approval, and our presentation to the Transportation Commission.
I think that's an appropriate time to figure it out. Yeah.
Does that satisfy your question at the moment, Jalen?
Yeah, it does. My advice to him, though, was to over budget whatever we think we're going to get, because you can always decrease a budget without a public hearing, but you can't increase it. So, but I guess my question was whether it's even coming to the county. If it's not, if the city takes care of all expenditures and revenue incoming, then it's not an issue for the county. So we'll have you and Joel and Chris connect, Carly.
I suspect that if the shared use path is awarded, I don't know that the city would be in charge of that project, so I don't know why we would have the money at all. I can see a scenario where if dispersed parking were selected, or some amount of it, that would be given to the city, but it's possible that you don't handle all of the projects. So I think that's to be worked out.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to take that time, Curtis.
No, that's a good question. And again, I encourage everyone to, to speak up at the joint meeting, and my hope is that we can have a successful, meeting as we wrap this up and have everyone feeling really good about it. So I'm really looking forward to that. Any other comments, discussion before we wrap up here? Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time, and thanks for everyone's work and attention, engagement, input on this.
Curtis, sorry, I think Monty raised his hand.
Oh, sorry. Monty, would you like to comment?
Oh dear.
Carly, I did email you the criteria And Jared was right. It was about 54.5, and it also had the other rankings on there as well. So you have that now in your email.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you all. We'll adjourn this meeting at 3:15 p.m. and we'll see you soon.